Welcome back, everyone. Welcome back to another season of the GSL, the Global StarCraft League, Season 1 of 2024. I'm, of course, host Live VIP, and with me, I'm joined by the lovely people in the chat, by these lovely chains that bind us here to the Global StarCraft League. It's great to be back for another season, and it's great to be back here with the Qualifiers. Oh boy, it's a new year, it's a new season, it's a new era of StarCraft. For those that are curious, the GSL qualifiers were held a couple of days ago. They were held 5 days ago, 6 days ago, less than a week. It's been less than a week since the GSL qualifiers were held, and for those that are in the know, you would be aware, if you've been following StarCraft for quite some time, the GSL qualifiers are not broadcasted live. They're not broadcasted live in English or in Korean. The games are held, and the GSL qualifiers, when they are held, they focus on just getting through it. They focus on just, facilitating for the players and allowing them and giving them as much time as they need, and just letting them focus on the games themselves. There is no pesky, observers or casters trying to slow them down and get into lobbies or anything like that. No. It's all about just getting through the qualifiers themselves. The replays are gathered. And a big shout out to GSL, !GSL in the chat. You can, of course, support them over on Patreon. They do provide replays to their patrons. They do provide replays to their patrons, and the pack was released a couple of days ago. To their patrons, and we are here to cover those qualifiers. We're here to go over as much as we can. Now, there are a lot of matches. Also, I should reiterate, for the qualifiers, only the qualifying matches were provided when it comes to the replay pack. We were not given access to any of the other matches in the lead up to the qualifying spots, which is a bit of a shame. I'm sure there was some really good games played, but only the qualifying matches were provided to us, so that is a bit of a heads up as to what is to come here. And we will quickly switch over our scenes and have a look at what matches are to come. Here we go. Okay, we have some qualifying matches, and we have some players lying in wait. So the way this works, Maru versus... Also, every series, best of 3. Every series is a best of 3. And up first, we have Maru versus Classic in a best of 3. The winner will advance on into GSL. The loser will face off against DRG. You can see DRG there lying in wait for the loser of this series for a second chance at qualifying for the GSL. Likewise, we have Hero versus Creator. Loser goes up against Gumiho. And then we have Dark versus Bunny. We're going over 5 best of 3s. There are going to be 5 qualifying matches here. And we will cover the second half. This is mainly half. There's 10 matches. There's 10 qualifying matches. We're going over 5 today. We're going over another 5 tomorrow. So that is how we are splitting things up here. Half and then the other half. So mark your calendars. Be sure to be free tomorrow evening or tomorrow morning, depending on where you are as well, to determine who else does make it through into this season of GSL. Oh boy. So again, a lot of matches are to be had. Now, the way this works is that there are 10 qualifying matches in round 1. You can see at the very top, this is round 1. In round number 2, the players that fail to qualify have a wildcard qualifier, essentially, where there is a final chance for all these players to make it through into another qualifying spot. We will get into round number 2 tomorrow as well. Tomorrow we will be wrapping up the qualifiers and wrapping up all of these matches as best we can. So yeah, it's going to be stacked 2 days of StarCraft here, going over all the GSL qualifiers. We're going to be covering everything. We're not missing a single series. We're going to be sinking our teeth into everything that our lovely Korean players here have to offer, against some really good matches going on right now. Maru versus Classic, best Terran, one of the best Protoss going to be facing off. We have DRG, who's a wild card as well. We have seen DRG pop off from time to time. I do want to say that he has a good chance here against both Maru and Classic, but, we'll see who he faces off against. Likewise, Hero versus Creator in a PvP. Anything can happen. Anything can go on in that PvP. We've seen Hero thrive and also fail in the PvP matchup as of late. Here's to see how Creator will do. It is a shame that the loser goes up against Gumiho. Gumiho is a very unpredictable player, especially in the TvP matchup, or in every matchup, really. TvT is probably his most sane matchup. And yeah, it's not going to be easy for either hero or creator to go up against Gumiho in that lower round. And likewise, we have Dark versus Bunny, a spicy ZVT. Again, I have a soft place in my heart for Bunny. I do love him so much as a player. He's very hit and miss. I don't think Bunny is the most consistent of players, but every now and then he can really spike up in skill and really catch you off guard and look amazing as a player. So hopefully he's peaking at the moment as we get into the GSL qualifiers. For now though, we have our first series. It is going to be Maru versus Classic in a Terran versus Protoss matchup. We have our maps, we have our lobby. We're loading on in to game number 1 on Alkione. Let's go. Let us go. Meanwhile, let's shout out to everyone in the chat. A shout out to, I see Noam Chomsky, I see Wormshik, Chenobade. Shout out to Soundo and Werehug, our first quacker of the night. Hello, Bobby. Hello. Hope you're doing well. Quack, Bobby, quack. As we are spawning on in. Oh, I actually haven't seen Maru's in-game clan yet in recent times, ever since he's joined his new team. And alas, there is no in-game clan. I'm shaking. Crank. Crank. I'm shaking my head. Should be getting on that, but here we go. Spawning in the top right-hand corner of Alkione, we have our South Korean Protoss player, the Red Protoss representing Twisted Minds. It is Classic. And spawning in the bottom left-hand corner, we have his opponent. We have the South Korean Terran player, the Blue Terran representing his new team, Team Vitality. It is Maru. And it looks like instead of having an in-game clan, they have added the VIT letters at the start of the name. I'm shaking my head. God damn it. Crank, get on it. Make the in-game clan. Shaking all my head. Regardless, it's great to see Maru, of course, being supported by the new team. Shout out to Team Vitality and their social media. They did, of course, post their announcement video with Crank, with Solar, with Maru, with Ryung. Honestly, it was really cool. I love the production behind it. I loved the creativity behind it as well. It felt very old school. I loved the idea behind that video, and I do recommend it. Really cool to see their support. And again, this is in the aftermath of IEM Katowice. Maru had an insanely good run in that tournament, and I'm sure, as a result, as this is post IEM Katowice, we are definitely in form for GSL. Maru looking to come in as arguably the best player in all of Korea. We'll see if he can be stopped. Likewise, Classic, unfortunately, kind of missed his opportunity. He failed to qualify for IEM. Classic is one of the few players that did not travel to Poland and did not travel to IEM Katowice, despite how good he is. Again, Classic is straight up one of the best Protoss players in all of South Korea. He's top 2 alongside Hero, but he wasn't able to be a part of that event. Didn't make it, and he has been competing. Like, Classic has been competing in ESL Open Cups in the interim. You know, while players have been traveling, he has still been on that grind, and I'm sure and I hope that Classic is ready for this season of GSL. I hope that IEM Katowice and the failing of qualifying for that didn't deter him too much. I hope so. Fingers crossed. Meanwhile, this is something that Classic has been doing recently. He has been going for his tech at the natural in PBT. I'm curious if that's going to be the case here this time as well. Maru does confirm the pylon placement, does see it on the left-hand side, and there it is. Stargate is on the way. This is very unique to Classic. I've noticed it time and time again, but in this matchup in PvT, he is very fond of this specifically. Throwing down his tech here at his natural, and sometimes it goes unscattered, but he's making a trend out of this, and Maru already saw the pylon, so he should be aware of where the tech is going to be thrown down. He dips into the main, denied access into the main base as well. Ooh, the Reaper is going to have to get the hell out of here, as it will avoid the clutches of that Adept before doubling on back. And it is going to be a Stargate opener, most likely Stargate Phoenix opener out of Classic. Meanwhile, back at home, it was a double gas opener out of Maru, going for a faster factory. Much more aggressive build here from our Terran player. Hellions moving out, delayed TC for Maru, and we'll see if we can get some damage done as we move out with an abundance of Hellions and Reapers. 3 Reapers and 2 Hellions. We are moving up. Behind this, we're reactoring out Cyclones. Oh my. Okay. Wasn't quite expecting that, but we are doubling down on the aggression. Hellions, they do try to bypass the army. They're going for the middle line. They're diving into the main base. We do get confirmation of the Stargate. We do get eyes on the Phoenix. But can we get any probe kills? We have bled out a lot of units. One probe going to be going down. We can get a second. And can we get a third? We can. Oh, not quite here. 2 probes go down for the cost of 3 Reapers and 2 Hellions. Not the best trade from Maru. He does at least scout his opponent. And he's now aware of what's going on. With those Cyclones, he can defend his mineral lines. Or we can push out. Oh, we're pushing out. Oh, we actually catch the Phoenixes. Good movement here out of Maru. We do deal some hull damage, but the Phoenixes do get past those Cyclones to go straight for the mineral line. They're going straight for those SCVs. And we will reciprocate that damage, getting 1 worker in the main base. We also get eyes on the 111. Very important scout. It has not been uncommon for Terran players to delay their starport, get into a second and even third racks, then into a delayed starport, into a 2-base all-in, or into very committed play. Instead, Maru going for a 111 straight into a third CC. Very economic follow-up. Very fast third base here by Maru. Classic has a piece of the puzzle. He saw the 111, so he knows about the relatively standard opener. He knows that it isn't going to be overly aggressive, so he can set up quite comfortably back at home. But he hasn't seen the timing of the third base. He doesn't know how greedy Maru is being, and this is greedy. Cyclones, they have arrived, getting some lock-ons, forcing some of the shield to be wasted here at the natural. It is going to be a Phoenix opener into Colossus. We are cutting Phoenixes at 3. Again, this has been a common tactic here for Classic, as he does lift up 3 of those Cyclones and will shut them down. Very nicely done by a Protoss player. Very efficient trades. Phoenixes, they do survive. They head into the main base. Liberator has arrived, but it will be shut down, only killing 1 probe. Again, really clean defense so far by Classic. And he is going for a counterattack. But he is at least taking control of the Zonaga. Maru behind this, still producing more of these Cyclones. He's playing Bio, don't get me wrong. We do have a second and third racks on the way. But we have been making non-stop Cyclones just to make sure we survive, we can be safe against a counterattack. And now we go into tank production. It is delayed tank production here for Maru. But they are on the way. Viking is going to get shut down. Oh, the better back. Taking some extra hits as well. Again, just a really aggressive style here at a Classic. Does rock up here on the front lines. Does get eyes on the third CC. Now he knows. Now he knows how greedy Maru has been. He's going to try and punish this. The base taking a lot of damage from those Immortals. Boys being pulled to repair. They do try to top up that CC. It looks like the CC will live, will survive. Behind this, Classic backing off, taking his own third base, working towards his upgrades, towards his own tech. +1 and Twilight Council on the way for Blink, for charge, sorry. Up for either or. And Classic will pull back. I mean, Maru, this third base is already done. He got away with it. He got away with the fast third. He does defend. He's arrived with his tanks. He should be looking solid here to take his third without too much issue. So a really nice start out of Maru. He did bleed out some Cyclones, that is true. But more importantly, he got away with a fast third. So he's going to be able to make up for his losses. Going to be able to snowball out of control economically. Classic just now getting his own third up and running. It may be worth taking a fast fourth base for Classic, as he is going for charge. And he is rounding out this army. Again, winding it back a little bit, Classic, he has been very fond of just cutting these Phoenixes quite early. Only 3 Phoenixes here for Classic, which means drop play is still a little bit effective against him. Meanwhile, I was not quite expecting this already, but Classic, we take advantage of how large this map is. Alcyone, known for its longer macro games, we have a Stargate and a Fleet Beacon on the way for carrier production. Now, likewise, first, Maru was the greedy player. Now, this is a very greedy move from Classic. Very tech-heavy style. It takes a long time to produce Sky Toss to get into carrier production. If Maru is too passive, then Classic can snowball out of control. Again, Classic, he's hoping that Maru is maybe being too defensive, maybe focusing on his economy, being too passive across the map. It is a very risky move considering how aggressive Maru is known to be. And there it is, the first carrier is on the way. We are making 2 carriers at a time. Oh boy. And right now, Classic is vulnerable. Classic, he is vulnerable to an attack. He is cutting Colossus here at 2, if I'm not mistaken. Yes, only 2 Colossus, only 2 Immortals. Not the best ground army right now here for Classic, and Maru is pushing. Oh, Maru is pushing Classic. He needs time. He needs time to get away with these carriers. And how many tanks do we have? We have 4 tanks here on the ground. Disable interference matrix is researched, and Maru is pushing in. Disable on the Phoenixes. Not what I was expecting. But all 3 Phoenixes will be going down. One of them does survive. Classic being proactive, diving on top of the tanks. Tanks, they are late to siege. 1 tank goes down. And again, Classic, he doesn't want to commit. He doesn't want to dive on this army. He's just buying time. He's just trying to buy time here for those carriers. And they are on the way. The first carrier has arrived. But we need more than 1. We need more than 2. We need up to 4. It is, sorry. Second carrier has arrived even. We are building up. Meanwhile, Maru, he responds with Viking production. 2nd starport is on the way. +1 ship weapons as well. We're getting into Sky Terran. And Maru taking a 4th. Very fast 4th base here for Maru. So something that I need to emphasize here is how greedy Maru has been. Very fast 3rd, very fast 4th. He is keeping up with the base count of the Protoss. He's exceeding the base count of the Protoss as Maru, he's up in workers. This is typically something that is not seen. In this matchup, typically, traditionally, we do have the Protoss player being up in bases. They need to be up in bases because of the mule. Because of how mules work, typically the Protoss, they're up a base, they're containing the Terran player, but Maru, he's expanding so quickly. And this is getting out of hand. He's up to 82 workers plus mules. Maru is soon about to max out. And Classic can't punish this. Because Classic is going for a tech-heavy style, the smart thing to do against this is to go for an economic style. Because Classic can't really do anything to stop him. Maru's getting away with so much. I mean, the alternate routes here would be for Maru to kill Classic before he can mass up carriers. But Maru, he's confident. He's feeling confident here against Classic. Happy to embrace the later game. 5th CC almost done. I say a 5th CC. We have 4 orbitals on the way. Which is crazy. We have 1 here outside the 4th. We have 1 here in between the bases. We have 2 more here in the main as well. Just mass CC from Maru. Again, embracing that later game. As we spoke about though, this is because of the map. If we were in a smaller map, I'm sure we'd see a different style. But Alkione is known for its late game. So Maru is embracing it. He's not afraid. Classic rushing into the gold. Going for the gold base as a 5th. How many carriers do we have? We're up to 4 carriers. We have the mothership. Love to see it. Also, did I say 4? I should have said 6. 6 is the ideal carrier count you want to be cutting at. From here, we can go into Tempest. We can ideally go into some supportive units, though. What do we need here to support the carriers? Storm. Storm is ideal, as it does splash damage to both land and air. It's a good way to zone away those Vikings. Meanwhile, Celarombai does come in. Does catch a tank, does catch a Widowmine, forcing Maru to pull back. A pretty successful Zella counterattack, and Classic is continuing to move out, but against all these Vikings, I'm not so sure. As I just mentioned, what do we have here on the ground? We have a handful of Stalkers. I say handful, 17 Stalkers. That's a decent amount. But again, no Storm, no High Templar. The sheer amount of Vikings is terrifying. Ooh, we have 19 Vikings, almost enough to one-shot. You can see there that carrier barely survives on 40 HP. So we have clearly more than enough to two-shot carriers. And we're still making more Vikings. We're getting into that one-shot range. And it's not just the carriers, it's the Colossus. That's the thing. Without the Colossus, where's the splash damage? Storm is halfway done. Storm is on the way, but it may not be done in time. Mothership goes down. Big anti-armor missile as well. Classic forcing his way into these tanks. Forcing his way up the ramp. Good disable here on the carrier, and the Vikings, they're going in. There's nothing to stop them. Stalker's doing what they can here, but we do see the Vikings just going to town on the Colossus, on the carriers, and everything in the air does fall. The Vikings, they reign supreme. The Ghosts and Marauders on the ground, they shut down those Stalkers. Storm is finishing up in a couple of seconds, but that was an anti-timing. Classic pushing in without the Storm. Now it's done. But what use is it? What use is it anymore, as the army has fallen? We have the High Templar, but it's too late, and Maru, he can keep pushing. He's almost maxed out. He's double expanding as we speak, taking his planetary, taking the gold base. Again, Classic just a little bit too over-eager, a little bit too overconfident. Just needs to wait a little bit longer there. Maru, he's pushing in. Again, Classic successfully got away with the carriers. He successfully got away with the Sky Toss. He was able to max out. But with a subpar army, big EMPs here. On the Stalkers, on the Colossus, we do back off. We could rotate over towards the gold, and yeah, there we go. The gold has been spotted. Maru just expanding all across the map, taking every single base he can. Liberation has arrived. We still have Vikings left over. 9 Vikings, still making 2 at a time. 3 Liberators being produced as well. And this Nexus will fall. Maru leapfrogging forward here with these libs. And Classic being forced further and further back. He does have those storms. There are 2 High Templar on the ground, 2 High Templar in the prism. The EMP! EMP does end up hitting the prism, not the High Templar. Storm grazes the army. We have 2 storms left. The EMPs once again cover the army. Decent storm here on Maru, but 1 storm is not going to be good enough. And Maru, he does break through. Takes down the carriers, takes down the mothership. And Classic doesn't have anything left. The Sky Terran, Poppy. Liberation. The Liberators, the Vikings, they go ham. GG gets called, and Maru takes game number 1. GG. A solid win there from Maru, and again, a really impressive style as well. We have seen this from Maru in the past, where even if he sees his opponents being a little bit greedy tech-wise and cutting corners, Maru, he'll just meet you in the late game. I wind it back to Radisson Station. We did see Maru, I remember in WTL against Shopify Rebellion, Maru played on Radisson Station against Hearthstone, and Hearthstone played a similar style. Because you can get away with it on Radisson Station. He rushed into Skytoss, he rushed into a 5-base economy, he maxed out on carriers, on Tempest, and Maru embraced it. He himself got up to 5, 6 CCs, he rushed into mass Starport production, and went Sky Terran as well, and just went toe-to-toe with the late game Protoss army and just shut it down. Likewise, we saw it here. We saw it a little bit differently here, where I should put a little bit more onus on Classic. Like, shout out to Maru, of course, for scouting, preparing, and being so well set up for that scenario. But likewise, Classic, he got away with the carries. He got away with the mothership. He was looking good there. He had Storm on the way, and he did fight without it. And we saw that without that splash damage support, he could not zone away those Vikings. He could not really zone away the Vikings. He had a harder time breaking through the bio army on the ground as well, and we saw that the fight from Classic was a little bit lackluster and left much to be desired. He did overextend, he did end up losing his entire army, and from that moment, Maru ran away with it. So maybe again, Classic just a little bit too excited, maybe just a little bit too overconfident, or maybe he was feeling pressured. Maybe he was like, I maxed out, I know that I have Storm on the way, I know that I have these other things that are on the horizon, but it's Maru, and I have to kill him as soon as possible. You know, maybe Classic felt pressure to push in then and there as soon as possible, even if he wasn't quite prepared, or if he didn't have his ideal setup, and in the end things did fall by the wayside. Regardless, GG, well played. Maru does take the first game, and now we're getting into game number 2. Let's go. As a reminder, this is a best of 3. Best of 3 here in all these qualifying matches, which is a bit of a shame. I would love to see some best of 5s, but alas, pure best of 3s here between all our players. And we're getting into game 2 on Site Delta. Let's go. Just adding something in. Here we go. Spawning in the top left-hand corner of Site Delta, we have our South Korean Protoss player, the Red Protoss, representing Twisted Minds down in the series, but looking to fight back. It is Classic. And spawning in the bottom right hand corner, we have as opponent, we have the blue Terran player from the land of South Korea representing Team Vitality. It is Maru. Leading the series 1-0, embracing a longer later game on Alkyone. Again, it was impressive to see him just rush into an insanely fast third, fast fourth, throwing down 4 CCs at a time, and yeah, able to get into his Viking production as well, to be able to meet the Sky Toss with his Sky Terran, and in the end shut it down. Meanwhile, we do see Classic scouting for proxies, checking, making sure there is no hidden racks on the left hand side before going for a probe scout. It's a really safe play at a Classic. Is moving out. Meanwhile, back at home, Classic just opening up with a what looks to be a gate expand or a gate cyber expand. Nothing too wild here from our Protoss player. I wouldn't be surprised if he throws down his second pylon here at the natural again, just to hide his tech. Again, something very unique to Classic. As the probe gets in, and we do confirm the double gas. It is going to be a double gas opener, just like the previous game. Maru going for a faster factory, going for a delayed CC. Factory is on the way. Behind this, Classic just setting up back at home. Once the Cybercore is done, we can get into our tech of choice, whether it's a Stargate or a Twilight Council. I'm feeling Stargate again, but we'll see. We'll see what Classic does have in store for us. As likewise, Maru is moving out for that scout. Behind this, going for the delayed CC, setting up with his factory. We saw that last game, it was a little bit lackluster when Maru did go for the triple Reaper double Hellion, so I imagine he's going to be diverting away from that. As we have our tech of choice, Maru, he will not quite see, does get zoned away, and it is going to be a Stargate opener once again. Once again, the Stargate here at the natural at the second pylon location. And this time, Maru, he doesn't waste any time with Hellions or with additional Reapers. He's going straight for the reactor and straight for Cyclone production. This is looking like the setup for a Cyclone drop. We'll see if we do actually commit to a second Cyclone after the first. Oh, we do not. We're going for a Cyclone into a Widow Mine. Okay, a mine drop here from Maru. Something more traditional. Something that we're a little bit more used to. And as they commit to the shade, we do clean up 2 of those Marines. Can we delay the CC up? Ooh, not quite. We don't quite save the SCV, as I meant to say, but we do delay the CC for a moment. Not the worst trade from Classic, but I wouldn't say it's ideal. 2 Adepts for 1 SCV and 2 Marines. Not really what we're looking for. Ooh, interesting. Okay, so we are going for a drop. The medevac is on the way, but as you can see, we do have 1 Widowmine out, and we're not making a second Widowmine. When I saw the Widowmine, I assumed it was going to be a mine drop, but that is not the case. It looks like it is still going to be the Cyclone drop. Or I mean, we'll see how we piece this all together, and what does load into that medevac. It's going to be the 1 Widowmine. It's going to be everything. We're moving up with everything we have. All of the above is the answer. Marines, Widowmines, Cyclones, all being sent across the map. Meanwhile, the Phoenix will scout, will confirm. Does get eyes on the army. And back at home, Classic, what do we have to defend? We have a shield battery and a handful of gateway units. 2 Stalkers and Adept. We do get a bit of hull damage on that first Phoenix. And we can threaten the production. See Classic trying to come in from behind. Alas, he's getting caught out of range of the shield battery. Adept goes down. Do maintain our Stalkers. Medevac, of course, does provide high ground vision. Ooh, and Classic has to be very careful here, as he does sustain some damage. Viking arrives as well. Jesus, Maru just rallying everything across the map. Behind this, going for a 3rd TC. Does trigger the shields on the Immortal, but once again, a very fast 3rd TC here from Maru. 2 games in a row. Widowmine is not going to get baited out. Up! Oh my god. So close there. Trading a Widowmine for a Phoenix. Not a bad trade for Maru. One of the Cyclones does get targeted down. But we will take the fight. Good target fire here, taking down some of those Stalkers. Oh, and Classic did overextend. He loses 2 Stalkers, loses the Zealots. Has to pull back to the shield battery. And Maru, he isn't trying to break his opponent. He isn't trying to bust into the natural. He's just picking up whatever he can, containing Classic to 2 bases while Maru works on a 3rd. Again, a very late 3rd base here from Classic compared to Maru's. And once again, 2 games in a row, Maru, he will take an economic lead, as the 3rd CC is now done. Again, good trades overall from the Terran. 3rd CC being morphed into the orbital. Classic moving out. Maru gonna respect it. I'll pick up there from Maru, just saving as many Marines as he can. As he does race back home. Classic gonna be committing to a counterattack here. Does pick up a Cyclone. Behind this, we're getting into Colossus production. Again, it's Phoenix Colossus as an opener, just like the previous game. So far, the builds here are pretty similar. It's the same build, straight up the same build from Classic 2 games in a row. Triple Phoenix into Colossus production into +1 and charge on the way for Classic, just like game 1. Meanwhile, Maru had a very different opener. Had a similar follow-up where he's going for a fast 3rd base, then setting up his production. But he opened up with these mass Cyclones and he was able to achieve a lot. He was able to delay the 3rd base, pick up a couple of key units. I would say this is a better start for Maru. Behind this is getting into his upgrades, and now he's landing his 3rd CC on location. Again, Maru, his macro here is looking terrifying. He's going up into his Ravens. Disable is research. Interference Matrix is research, I should say. Which means these Colossi, they aren't anywhere near as imposing as they should be. Maru, he does have an answer for them. With those 2 Ravens. He's working his tank count. Once again, building up towards 4 tanks. And just like the previous game, we may decide to move out with those 4 tanks as well. Meanwhile, Classic once again rushing into the fleet beacon. We should be seeing a 2nd Stargate. There it is. 2nd Stargate is on the way. Again, this is the same build 2 games in a row for Classic. And to be fair, it was pretty successful last game. It wasn't the build that failed Classic last game. It was maybe his impatience, or again, depending on how you want to look at it, depending on how you want to interpret Classic's mindset. The fact that he did attack prematurely is what hurt him. Not his rush into Skytoss. So I don't blame Classic going for the same build. Meanwhile, Maru does move out with his 4 tanks. Does move out. Scans the main army, sees the Colossi, ready with the Ravens. As he is leapfrogging forward. Slowly pushing forward with those tanks, re-sieging. Here we go, Classic is committing. He does collapse on the army, takes down the 1st tank, but here come the disables on every single Colossus. And without Colossus, what does Classic really have? Yeah, as we stim on forward, we shut down the Immortal, we break through those Zealots. The Colossus finally break free from the disable. But the Vikings, they have arrived, and where is the support? Where is the support for Classic? It's not there. He has 1 Stalker on the ground. And the Vikings are just going ham. They're just having their way with the Colossi. Another disable goes down. And Maru, he has broken the 3rd base. GG gets called. Maru takes the series 2-0. GG. GG, well played. A very decisive attack there from Maru. Classic, he was working on another base. And unfortunately, Classic just wasn't able to slow down the army. When it comes to these big pushes here on 2 bases. When it comes to these big 4 tank pushes from Maru, it did need to be slowed down. What I mean by that, if Classic was able to see this coming ahead of time, he would have been able to be a little bit more active in the center of the map. And I'm not saying he could have fought the army, but he could have forced sieges. Forced sieges over and over again from Maru to slow down the push, to be able to buy time 4 reinforcements, 4 extra warp ins. As we saw there, once Maru got in the face of Classic, what could Classic do? I mean, sure, he did engage. He was forced to engage. The alternative solution there is to back off, to give up a base, give up a nexus, and be contained to 2 bases. It's damned if you do, damned if you don't. It was a brutal push there from Maru, and Classic just wasn't able to deal with it then and there at that 3rd base. In his face. GG. GG, well played. On top of that, I should also mention something that we spoke about in Game 1. It isn't just the fact that he wasn't able to slow down the army, it's also how decisive Maru was. In Game 1, we spoke about how when scouting Skytoss, you can deal with it in 2 different ways. You can either embrace it and kind of beat your opponent at their own game and rush into a 4th base and max out and get into Vikings and into Sky Terran, which is what we saw from Maru in Game 1. The alternative solution, if you remember, was to push out and to kill your opponent while they're vulnerable. And Classic was vulnerable there because he was spending his money not on his army, but on a fleet beacon, on a Stargate, on Skytoss. And this is the danger of rushing into Skytoss, is that you do leave yourself open to an attack like that, which is what Maru was able to accomplish. I don't know if Maru was able to really correctly identify or confirm that Classic was going for the same build, but did work out in favor of Maru anyway. And GG, well played. Classic this time wasn't able to get away with the Skytoss, with the carriers. Was able to in Game 1, not quite here in Game 2. GG. GG, well played. With that, Maru does qualify for GSL. He's our first player to qualify for the Global StarCraft League. And this means that Classic gets knocked down into another qualifying match. Oh boy, Classic, he has a chance to redeem himself. He's not out of the qualifier. It is not single elimination. It is double elimination. Just as a reminder, just as a heads up, Classic still has one more shot here. Up next, it is going to be Classic versus DRG.